Hey guys, Gabriel from Ungraceful Toad here, and today I'm going to be doing the full review of the E2046 Gurren Lagann. Now, first I want to say, I'm going to be talking about E2046 as a company, and my opinions on recasts and proxies first. I'll put a timestamp up in one of the corners, so if you don't care about my opinion on E2046 and recasters, you can skip straight to the normal review stuff, but for you who stick around, thanks, and let's get into it. So, E2046 started a garage kit sort of company offering pre-painted services and obviously custom garage kits, and there became a lot of drama about how they treated reviewers and people who got hold of their figures and made media about them and things. And honestly, I'm not going to get into it because I don't know too much detail, but I'm thoroughly against proxies and remakes and fake figures altogether, because the main reason I started collecting these figures was to support the anime industry further than just buying my anime manga and soundtracks and stuff. So the idea of going out and buying proxies is something I'm very much against. But this piece, I had to buy a proxy, and I'm going to tell you the reasons why. So it's originally released in 2009, and there were only 300 pieces of this original kit made, and I've never seen one on the secondary market, and I can't imagine the price they would go for on the secondary market if they did appear. So, to make it even harder to find, they were only available at Comic Market 77 and New Kit Exhibition 2010, where they sold for about £266 when it had been converted. This replica cost me £195, including shipping, and the only major differences that you will see between this and the original version is where the armour is purple, on the original it's black. On these glasses, where there's a gradient in paint, these are actually translucent, so they actually look more like sunglasses. But those are the main differences, that this is a resin pre-painted model kit compared to the giant PVC kit that was originally released in 2009. So those are your main sort of reasons why I decided to go for a proxy, which is something I wouldn't usually be for. But in this case, if I wanted this figure in my collection, there was no other choice. So let's skip on to the normal review stuff and sort of ignore the more negative side of figure reviewing and all these copying, and let's just go into why this figure is super cool. So the first thing I want to address is, because you're getting a multi-part plastic, well, not plastic, resin kit, it's important that it arrives safely. And what E2046 do is, within the box you get a shift, you have these plastic containers on the top and the bottom of the main box, and that stops this box shaking around in transit. And then within this, we get this simple black box, and in this, for those who have seen the unboxing will have already seen this, we have this custom cut foam, and in each of these we have numbered compartments to help us with the building process, and each one is stuffed with foam. Where the piece goes, there'll be a piece of foam, the piece, and another piece of foam. This is all taped together, and each piece is within certain plastic bags to stop it being scraped up and to really reduce any impacts. So I feel like there's a very slim chance of any transit company, no matter how bad, delivering this to you and not being in tip-top condition. So let's move on and talk about the figure itself. So as I've mentioned, there's a multi-part resin kit, and the advantage you have with resin is you can get more detail into it compared to PVC, and it's also a lot harder wearing, but because of that we also have the contrast of it's also a lot heavier. So this figure is actually quite heavy. I'll weigh it for you a bit later on when we're doing dimensions and stuff, but let's just take an overall look, because I feel like no matter what I said, the overall summary of this figure is it's done in almost every aspect brilliantly. So I'm not going to drone on for too long talking about it. I'm just going to show you some of the aspects of it from the front and the back, and we'll go over it and just look at it, because I'm sure by now, just from looking at it for a few minutes, you can appreciate this piece is brilliantly done. And I also have to say the camera is not doing it justice. The red in particular is far better in real life, and the greens within the translucent plastic are far more vivid and look far more appealing than they do in the camera, where it looks a bit pale and a bit washed out. So let's take a look over it. I think I'm going to have to go with a bit shaky freehand for this, because he's simply too big to get within the lens. So a red paint gloss is an absolutely amazing finish, and everything is incredibly clean. The only thing is the purple isn't quite as spectacular as the red, but it is a secondary colour, so it is excusable. All the lines are incredibly neat, and except for that purple instead of being black, it is very correct to the show with the skin colour, the face of the Gurren, and the skin colour here. I think we're looking to see all the eyes within the design. Those are all painted really well also, and with these great spikes with the shading. The only other complaint outside of the colour mismatch. I have two small complaints. One being, where some of these joints are, you can see gaps, but because the way the shading is done, it almost blends in really well, so that's a minor complaint. And the second complaint is, that's something I feel like they do need to improve, is everything is reliant on the weight of the figure, which is quite a lot, pushing down to keep it in place, which means it wobbles slightly. When I walk past my death elves, I can see this one shaking a little bit just from the pressure of me being on the carpet in front, causes it to rock slightly. But I feel like because these pieces are held together by pegs, you'll see this in my unboxing if you go back and look for it. The pegs could do just being a little bit longer, and I feel like this would make this a lot more solid. And there's only a peg in this back foot. If there was a peg in both feet, I feel like he'd be a lot more secure. But those are my only very slight complaints. He hasn't fallen over, so I don't think it's a huge deal. But if I was revisiting this as a figure, as a designer, I would definitely think about that. So I figured we'd just take a quick look from the back, because most of it is consumed by these sort of green flames. So there isn't too much to talk about, but it's worth a show. You see the shading is done brilliantly there. And there's more eyes on the back. There's no shortage of detail to get your mouth watering over on this figure. I'm going to put some still shots in now just while I have them in the light tank, because I figure it's the best way to take a closer look at them. And then I'll talk about sort of, obviously it's an E2046, but what their scale is for releasing this guy, and then we'll go into dimensions and more nitty gritty stuff, and then we'll have a final thoughts. I also want to talk about the fact that you get this base of almost, it's sort of like a free add-on kind of thing, but because he shakes so much and he has a peg in his feet, you can't not use him on the base. But it's like a real nice add because he fills the deck off so well, as you'll see. He is a solo display piece, and the base really adds to that. It's really solid, well built with these metal pegs, and I think it's a super nice touch. It really gives that premium feel to this figure. So the E2046 range is sort of released based on popularity. As I've mentioned in my unboxing, this figure took 5 months from when it first came up on pre-order to when it arrived, and to ensure that you can get the next range of pre-orders for this figure when it's next remade, you can go onto the E2046 site. I'll leave a link, and if you go to this figures page, which there'll be a link to again, you can click add to wish list, you'll create an account, and they'll send you an email next time it goes on pre-order, so you can immediately add it to your basket. And obviously when it goes on pre-order, if you're not willing to wait 5 months and give them all your money and then wait 5 months to get it, you can just lay a deposit down and then pay the rest up front when they're ready to ship it to you. So I feel like 5 months, considering that it goes from pre-order to the numbers to production, is actually not too bad. But that's because this is a popular figure. When ordering something else from them, if it's not as popular as this figure, you may find that it can take even longer. I have seen posts about E2046 where it's been 8-10 months and the figure still hasn't arrived with people because it just hasn't had the numbers that this one has had. So we're going to take a look at some size comparisons. I'm going to measure it, weigh it, and we'll talk about sort of our closing statement. I'm going to be doing all my measurements from the bottom of the display base, as you don't really have a choice due to the pegs and the legs that you have to display on the display base, so I'll go through the most realistic height. So his height from the bottom of the base to the top of his flames is down there 14 inches, which is about 35.5 centimetres, give or take a centimetre. His widest point is actually the width of the display base, which is just under 10 inches, which is 25 centimetres wide. And his depth is taken from the back of this elbow spike back there to the front of this huge knee spike, which is about 21 centimetres, which is just over 8 inches. So before we get onto the sort of size and stuff, I just want to say I quickly weighed him, and I had to do him in multiple small parts because he doesn't register on a normal sort of human scale, so I had to do it on a kitchen scale, so I had to take him apart a bit, and he was fluctuating, but he's about 1.2 kilos, which makes him perfectly fine for a debt off shelf, as these are recommended for 3.4 kilos, 3.5 kilos, but if you are worried, you can get these clips on eBay. I'll put a link in the description. So, as you can see, he truly does deserve his own debt off cube. He completely fills it, and the presence and the height and everything. with the lights on him, looks absolutely brilliant. So here he is next to 1/8 scale Jotaro Kujo, and here he is next to 1/6, and as you can see 1/6 Jotaro Kujo is actually almost as tall as him, but he is nowhere near the width and just the overall presence when compared to Gurren, which means that Gurren I think makes it far better. So a display piece where Jotaro will need a couple of companion pieces to really fill out a depth shelf. So I think it's fair to say my complaints on this guy are minimal, being that I think his peg should be a bit bigger, he shouldn't rely on his weight so much, and that... So I think it's fair to say my complaints about this guy are minimal. The slight concern about him rocking is, well, minimal since he's stayed together so well for the time I've had him, and those slight sort of shadow gaps where the joints are, but because of the shading, those are so incredibly minimal that it might as well not be a complaint. So I don't really think I have to summarise anything really. I think the figure speaks for itself. It's absolutely phenomenal and I can't recommend it enough. E2046 did a great job in shipping it, making sure it was solid. It's a great price point, I think, for how large and how much detail is in it, especially considering it's resin. And I just really have nothing else to say other than it's a brilliant figure, and I'd recommend it to anyone who enjoyed Gurren Lagann enough to want to invest this kind of money into a figure. And in the grand scheme of things, compared to some figures, it's really not that expensive for the size, at about $190, including shipping from the UK from China where E2046 is based. That's really not too bad when you consider some of the figures like that new Sakura figure, which is about the same size, and I'd much rather have this in my collection. I think this is much more of a showstopper than that one, but you know, it's up to you. But for me, as a collector and as a Gurren Lagann fan and as a fan of just high quality figures, this is absolutely spot on. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.